Hillary Clinton aligns herself with abortion providers on the campaign trail. What it says about her plans for the presidency. Emergency response. Mike Pence gives thanks for prayers after his campaign plane skids off a runway. A parish priest from Aleppo describes the challenges of war, why he chose to stay in Syria despite the danger.
The largest Catholic church in America celebrates a milestone. I'm Wyatt Goolsby. I'll have a closer look at a project 100 years in the making.
EWTN News Nightly for Friday, October 28th, 2016 starts now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. 11 days until the election, and today the FBI informs Congress it is investigating whether new emails into its probe of Hillary Clinton's private server may contain classified information. In July, the FBI said its investigation was finished. No charges were filed. Donald Trump says he thinks the FBI might be righting the ship.
They are reopening the case into her criminal and illegal conduct that threatens the security of the United States of America.
Trump supporters responded by shouting, "Lock her up." House Speaker Paul Ryan also responded, saying Clinton should not be allowed to receive intelligence briefings. And the Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, released a statement saying it is extraordinary that we would see something like this just 11 days out from a presidential election. The director owes it to the American people to immediately provide the full details of what he is now examining. Well, Clinton's first stop after the breaking news is Iowa, where she shared the stage with the presidents of Planned Parenthood and NARAL Pro-Choice America. Jason Calvi joins us now with that story. Jason?
Lauren, in Clinton's afternoon speech in Iowa, she ignored the issue of this new FBI investigation, but she did promote her stance on abortion and Planned Parenthood.
Hillary Clinton flanked by Planned Parenthood's Cecile Richards and NARAL Pro-Choice America's Elise Hogan. Clinton berated Donald Trump.
In the last debate, when he pledged to overturn Roe v. Wade and end safe and legal abortion, he promised to defund Planned Parenthood.
Donald Trump has also promised to sign a ban on most abortions after 20 weeks. In an exclusive interview with EWTN's Raymond Arroyo last night, Donald Trump explained why he became pro-life, because of a couple he knows.
One wanted to abort, and the other said, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. Anyway, they had the baby. It's a long time ago. And the baby is such a magnificent person who I know, a magnificent person. And the person that was actually pro-choice is now pro-life because of it. And it had a big effect on me.
As Clinton promotes her abortion views, pro-life leaders in Iowa tell us how important this issue is.
If we look at that issue, because there is no moral equivalency to abortion, that is the issue of our time and the issue of our Catholic teaching.
A new Politico poll finds that abortion is very important to about 25% of voters. The same poll finds that 58% of Americans think that Planned Parenthood should continue to receive federal funding. The same amount of people, 58%, say that federal funds should not go to doing abortions. And Lauren, the Democratic platform this year calls for repealing the Hyde Amendment, which bans federal taxpayer funding of abortion.
All right, Jason Calvi live in our newsroom. Thank you, Jason. Governor Mike Pence returns to the campaign trail today despite a scare last night. The vice presidential nominee's plane skidded off the runway in New York, landing on collapsible blocks at the end of the runway. No one was hurt, and he even stopped to take a picture with firefighters. Now, joining me now is Reverend Derek McCoy with the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, and Tim Carney, senior political columnist with the Washington Examiner. Thank you so much for joining us. What an announcement by the FBI. Is it a game changer?
Well, we don't know what's in the emails, and that's the bottom line. If the emails contain stuff that are damning, then yeah, this will be a game changer. In any event, it highlights sort of one of the things that's nagged her, which is that she kept things secret. Things that should have been handed over to federal authorities weren't. So if these are emails between her and staff or anything, that's exactly the sort of thing the Freedom of Information law said should have been handed over. That's not any,
and it
wasn't, but that's not anything new. To be a game changer, I think we got to ask what's in the emails, and we have no idea
what that is. Now, what do you think that Donald Trump's strategy should be? We saw him come out and say, hey, I think the FBI is going to right the ship here.
Well, obviously, me giving perspective on Donald Trump's strategy is kind of interesting, but I will say this. He needs to go after this pretty hard. He needs to make sure that the people are understanding what this means. And then I think, be quite honest, he was right. And if you look at really the history of this and the FBI guys coming back out and saying we're going to reopen this investigation or begin to look at what is classified, I mean, that's something that the American people need to know. This is something that's been haunting Hillary since day one, and she can't get around it, get by it. And so I think, Donald Trump is rightly going to probably talk about this consistently.
Tim, that goes right to the next question is, what does the Clinton campaign do now? She came out, as you heard Jason just show us, and in a campaign appearance there in Iowa where it was business as usual. She didn't mention anything. Is this, again, a time where she just should keep her mouth shut?
I think that in general, running against Donald Trump, she's done very well every time she's let him talk and she takes the back seat. He's already, if you saw what he said in his remarks today, he already went a little bit overboard in just some of the language he used. We don't know that they're reopening the investigation as much as they're saying they're following up on these emails and they're going to look at them. They had to inform Congress of this. So I think she benefits from stepping back and waiting to see what's inside those emails. I think it's far too late for her to really make up for the fact that her sort of offense was hiding these emails. I don't think there's any way to make up for that.
We still don't know. So this is sort of a Friday October surprise, the second or third, or how many October surprises have we had with going back to the beginning of the month? She said, Hillary Clinton told a crowd today that Donald Trump is particularly trying to get to women and young people and minorities to stay and to vote. Is that true? And how does this play into all of that?
Well, I think, quite honestly, if these issues continue to happen, and they already have, I mean, you have issues like Eric Garner's daughter that just automatically came out just recently on the email, just earlier today, on the whole email scandal with the WikiLeaks and whatnot. And she's already attacking the Hillary campaign on just some of the content of those things. And I think it's going to cause people to have a little bit more apathy, a little bit more question when they go to that ballot box. And really, the whole gnawing issue for Hillary is, can they trust you? Can they trust what you're saying? And if you keep saying, no, I didn't do this, or this isn't it, I think that's a real issue. I told somebody earlier today, quite honestly, I think if she would have been upfront, honest early on, this thing could have been past her, but that hasn't happened.
And Tim, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like this is really a referendum on Hillary's liability? Not a liability, but lying ability, which also, I guess, is a liability.
Yeah, I mean, the voters are not happy with their choices in this, and that they're choosing the lesser of two evils. We say that every 4 years. I think that's never been more true than now. But the question that he pointed out is, are they going to stay home? And if they just feel she's not on our side and I just can't trust her, then there's more reason for them not to go out and vote. I think that has its biggest impact down ballot, where there are Senate races that are up in the air. But yeah, the turnout, I think, is the bigger thing this will affect rather than swinging voters one way or another.
Okay, Tim Carney with the Washington Examiner. Thank you so much, Reverend Derek McCoy.
Thank you.
Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. The Supreme Court announced today it will consider a challenge to the requirement that schools allow transgender students to use restrooms that match their chosen gender identity. The case is expected to be heard in the spring. The chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe condemns police for removing pipeline protesters in North Dakota. They were at a camp on private land when officers shot beanbags and pepper spray at them. 141 people were arrested. The fight to push ISIS out of Iraq's second largest city is on hold. The U.S. military says Iraqi forces are taking a break to reposition and resupply their troops. They've already captured several smaller villages on the outskirts of Mosul. The United Nations says ISIS is trying to protect its position by using tens of thousands of people as human shields. Christians who were persecuted and pushed out of the area near Mosul can return now that troops have liberated their villages. This priest talks about returning to the Nineveh Plain, which is home to Assyrians and Chaldeans, some of the oldest Christian communities in the world. Many had to flee northern Iraq 2 years ago when the terrorist group took over. They say the war has left their neighborhoods in ruins. And thousands of refugees fleeing Iraq are crossing the border into Syria, a country in the middle of a civil war. That, according to the United Nations Children's Fund. UNICEF has set up a camp to help the refugees, including women and children. Rebels in Syria continue to clash with the government for control of Aleppo. But state media say pro-government forces have repelled attacks by the rebels and ISIS near the contested city. A human rights group in Britain reports 15 civilians were killed, 100 wounded. Fighting in the city is ongoing. Father Ibrahim al-Sabah, a Roman Catholic parish priest in the city of Aleppo, joins us from Rome, where he's presenting a book he's written about the war in Syria. Thank you so much for joining us. You are doing God's work. Tell us about the situation there.
The situation is so hard in this moment, in this period of Aleppo, because it seems that all the parts in the war decided to kill each one the other till the last soldier. Not only till the last soldier, but till the last civilian who is living today in Aleppo.
You have chosen to stay at your parish, St. Francis Assisi, during this conflict. You've faced many dangerous situations. How are you surviving as all of this killing is going on around you?
Really, I don't think about my survival. I don't think about my life. I am thinking of the life of my people. I felt once that God is calling me to go through the superiors, to go to serve the people, the suffering people in Aleppo. And I said yes, as Jesus did. So I don't care about the danger there, but I care how can I answer God in my vocation in this difficult moment of Aleppo and of its people.
And this message of hope that you are bringing, tell us how you have been influenced by Pope Francis, and tell us why it is so important for you to have this experience.
When I went for the first time, I couldn't imagine the situation, but I abandoned myself to the Holy Spirit. And I was attentive from the first moment to hear with the ears of the heart the crying of the people and what they are telling. And I felt many times that God Himself was speaking with me through the people. So looking to the necessity, I couldn't stop on my spiritual service about preparing, for example, good preachers, or good discourses, or celebrating the Holy Mass, the Holy Sacraments, but I stand up and I began to try to manifest charity. As the Pope Francis said, the Church is the tender hand of God.
Father Ibrahim al-Sabah, thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Coming up, papal visit, what the Holy Father plans to do during his trip to Sweden. And Election Day reaches beyond the White House. How much will it change the shape of the Senate? Jesus prays for us. That's the highlight of the Holy Father's homily at daily Mass. Pope Francis says Jesus prayed for us on earth and still prays for us in heaven. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Pope Francis leaves for Sweden Monday to pray with Protestants. They are beginning a year-long commemoration leading up to the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. Sweden has a mix of religions, including a shrinking number of Lutherans, a growing number of Muslim migrants, and a small Catholic community, and the Holy Father will say Mass on Tuesday. Francis meets the organizers of the first ever international conference for vicars and Episcopal delegates for consecrated lives. The Pope encouraged them to build up relations based on communion. The presidential race makes the most headlines, but other races on the ballot, down the ballot as they say, could also shift the balance of power. John Hudak with the Brookings Institution joins us now, and you study the presidency.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What impact do you think today's announcement that the FBI is reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails is going to have?
The impact is going to be a couple of news cycles for a couple of days, but it looks on early accounts that this is not a big deal, that this is not something that's going to get dealt with before the election. And so for the Clinton campaign, it's likely to be a couple of days of headaches and then a march toward Election Day.
What about on the key Senate races that are happening? It looks like at this point in time, based on polling, that Republicans are going to lose.
Yeah, the Republicans have a real uphill battle in the Senate, and what Democrats are hoping for is that Hillary Clinton can carry a few of the last Senate candidates across the finish line. So if this scandal does blow up into something bigger, it can hurt her in the close races in Nevada, in North Carolina, in Missouri, in New Hampshire. But if this is a blip on the radar, it's going to be Clinton going out there and campaigning hard with these Democrats to try to bring them to the Senate with her.
You mentioned New Hampshire, and that's the Kelly Ayotte race, and she has been getting a lot of heat for not supporting Donald Trump, and as have some other folks who are not doing so well. What do you think the Trump effect is?
Kelly Ayotte and others are in a very difficult place because in New Hampshire, Donald Trump is not playing that well. But she needs that Republican base. She needs that core to come out for her. So she's tiptoeing on this line that other Republican senators don't have to tiptoe on. And I don't know if there's a right answer or a good strategy, but Trump is really hurting down-ballot Republicans in these swing states or in these traditionally Democratic states.
And so they're turning away from him, but they're also not seeing the return. They're not seeing themselves going up in the polls. So it doesn't seem like it's a good strategy for them.
Exactly. The challenge for Republicans all along was being, how do I distance myself from Trump? For months, most voters were able to distinguish between Trump and the average Republican. I think anyone can see that. But now, as Trump's numbers have really tanked, it's starting to hurt these Senate races, and it's the Republicans' worst nightmare right now.
And so then let's circle back to the news of the day, which is this announcement the FBI is reopening these claims. What effect is that going to have? Are we going to see these down-ballot Republicans now say, oh, Trump is great because they think that he might now have a chance of winning more than he did before when Hillary's email scandal didn't blow up again?
I think what ends up happening is that Hillary Clinton might lose a little bit of support from this issue, but it's not going to drive to Trump. I think most people have made their minds up between the candidates. People are either going to continue to support Hillary or they're probably going to stay home if this scandal is too much for them.
So then the real issue is voter turnout.
Exactly. That's going to be tremendous, both at the presidential level, but especially in these Senate races. If there are Republicans who are disgusted with their candidate and they stay home, Republicans are going to lose in these Senate seats. If Democrats are very worried about what Clinton's email situation is going to mean for her as president and they stay home, it's going to hurt her and it's going to hurt Democrats down the ballot.
All right. Thank you so much, John Hudak from the Brookings Institution. Thanks for joining us. Up next, under construction, we take you inside America's largest Catholic church for a sneak peek at its new crowning feature. And inside baseball, the Cubs' chaplain describes the excitement of the World Series. Today is the feast for Saints Simon and Jude, both apostles of Jesus. Pray for us. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The largest Catholic church in America celebrates a milestone. Construction crews will soon add an elaborate mosaic to the National Basilica's largest dome. Wyatt Goolsby takes us inside the shrine in Washington.
Lauren, the Basilica of the National Shrine here in Washington is moving into the last phase of a monumental effort to renovate its central dome. We're here about 150 feet above the ground where construction crews have built about 8 different levels of scaffolding. They're installing a mosaic, an image of the Virgin Mary and of the saints. This has been an idea that has been in the works for about 100 years, ever since the shrine was conceived, but now it's coming to fruition. This project in particular has been blessed by Pope Francis. He came here back in September of 2015 and blessed part of the mosaic, part of what's called the Nicene Creed, which will wrap around the dome itself. Cardinal Donald Worrell, the Archbishop of Washington, says this is important not only for Catholics here in Washington, D.C., but for Catholics across the nation.
When pilgrims come, they come on journey to renew their own spiritual life, their own faith life. Can you imagine a more beautiful place to do that? Coming into this building and just being enveloped in the beauty of God's creation and the works of human hands, saying, we're all God's children.
Cardinal Wuerl blessed the Central Dome during a prayer service this morning. Construction is expected to be completed by 2020 in time of the 100-year anniversary of the laying of the foundation of the shrine itself. To help pay for the project, U.S. bishops have agreed to take up a nationwide collection on Mother's Day next year, 2017, in honor of the Virgin Mary. Donald Wuerl says he's thankful for the outpouring of support from Catholics who have or who will donate to this project. If you want to learn more, it's called the Trinity Dome. Log on to trinitydome.org. Lauren?
Thank you, Wyatt. And for the first time in 71 years, the World Series is back in Chicago. The series is split at 1 game each. The next 3 games will be played in the Windy City. Now, Cubs fans can hardly contain themselves. Hello, executive producer Susanna Pinto. It's the first World Series game at Wrigley Field since 1945. Joining us now is Father Burke Masters, Director of Vocations for the Diocese of Joliet. Oh yeah, and the team chaplain for the Chicago Cubs. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
What an exciting time for the Cubs in the city of Chicago. Now, you played baseball in high school and college and then converted to Catholicism when you were in high school. Then you entered the seminary when you were 30. And now you're the Cubs chaplain. Is this your dream job or what?
It's an incredible journey. So I, as you said, played baseball at Mississippi State University, got to play in the College World Series, wanted to be in this position, but as a player. And obviously God called me to be a priest. And I thought I was giving up baseball forever when I became a priest. And now God has brought it all back. I get to be a priest and be in the major leagues, but just in a different way. And I always tell the young people, when you're generous with God, he's more than generous with us.
What do you expect to happen tonight?
Well, as the Cubs chaplain, I have to say, I think the Cubs are going to win tonight. I'm going to say 3-1.
Oh, okay, great. Now we're doing some odds. All right. Tell us about your role on the team.
Well, I go down Sunday home games. I celebrate Mass for the Cubs, the visiting team, and any of the employees that want to come. And then I go into the locker room and in the dugout and just make myself available to the players. And it's just an amazing gift that God has given me to have this background of baseball, but then to be able to bring that to these men who, are famous. Many people, glamorize their lives, but they're human like me and you and have many of the same struggles that we do. So it's a real ministry of presence to these men and to the whole staff at Wrigley Field.
Does the team take their faith seriously?
They do. There's a lot of Catholics on the team, varying degrees of practicing their faith, but that's why I'm there, is to help them realize that baseball is a great game, but it's not everything. And, to get them to put things in perspective, that the game of life and heaven is our ultimate goal.
Everybody talks about the curse. The Cubs haven't won a World Series since 1908. How are you preparing the team for this possible loss they may have?
So yeah, it's been 108 years, and there's a lot of talk of the curse. And as I walk around the stadium, people are always joking, "Father, did you bless the team? Did you get rid of the curse? Are you praying for us?" And as you listen to the players when they're interviewed, many of them are so young. They've only heard about the curse through the news, and they're so young, they just have fun. And I think Joe Madden, the manager for the Cubs, does a great job of just putting that out of the picture and having them focus on the game at hand. And they are playing very relaxed, and I think that always helps them play better.
Father Burke Masters, team chaplain for the Chicago Cubs. Go Cubs!
Go Cubs. This is the year.
That does it for us this evening. Have a good weekend. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Lauren Ashburn. Good night and God bless.